And welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast, prideofdetroit.com, Pride of Detroit on Twitter, Pride of Detroit on Facebook. We tell you every time, but you know where to find us. Pride of Detroit everywhere as we come to you live with the Pride of Detroit PODcast, where you can download the Pride of Detroit PODcast from Twitch. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. I'm getting tripped up every time we do this. And what I meant to say at the start, you can watch it live on twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit and on youtube.com/C/Pride of Detroit, where you can catch those replays on YouTube as well. It gets longer and longer every time I say it. I'm going to just keep tripping over my tongue like Daniel Jones trying to run in a touchdown. My name, as you can't tell, is Chris Perfett. Perfett at Chris Perfett on Twitter. The adequate host, as you can tell, because I'm being incredibly adequate. It's been a long weekend. It's been a long week. We have finally wrapped a damn marathon when it comes to our draft coverage. I think, let me bring in Jeremy Reisman, the fearless mustache at Detroit Online. Jeremy, you still, oh, wow, the mustache is still there. It somehow got back from being blue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I just grew this one in a couple hours, so we're good.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's
Thank
impressive.
you.
I believe that is some power right there. And but between, so we didn't stream on day 3, but day 1 we were live for 5.5 hours, and I was there the whole time. But we had 9 different people all coming in and out. And then day 2, I streamed for 4 hours. Then you took it for another 2 hours after that, I believe.
Something like that. And then, yeah, actually, we did jump when the giant chasm between picks in day 3, we jumped on for an hour on Saturdays.
Oh, wow.
Too. So we're tired, but we're going to get through this podcast. And I'm excited. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of draft picks that happened. There are a lot of exciting draft picks that happened. And, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm getting an adrenaline rush here because after this podcast, I am going to fall asleep for 15 straight hours.
Yeah, I did that after day 2. Listen, we're not digging ditches here though, so it's not like we're complaining about how long we are working. If you're out there like delivering papers or stocking shelves, we give it up to you. But we're just mentally processing everything, and the man to help us mentally process everything is the third man of the Pride of Detroit PODcast, Ryan Matthews, at Ryan_POD. Ryan, what's up, buddy?
I'm sunburnt and I'm tired because I did do manual labor today. I rode a bike about 12 miles and then I mowed the lawn.
Look at you being healthy.
Yeah, I'm going to wake up in the morning when it's raining. I'm going to look outside the window and say, good, we really needed that.
Yeah, I probably need to start going on that too. It's been
big dad energy coming from everyone right
big,
now.
Yeah,
big dad energy.
No, not from me. Not from me. I'm just I've no.
I got 16 days until Dirty 30, so I'm gonna live it up, and it starts here.
Washed there.
Podcast.
It starts there in the podcast. It starts with the draft. It starts with the Lions. Can I say it? They were kind of one of the big winners of last night. I mean, of the last week or the weekend. You know what I mean?
I'm not sure I do, Chris. This is off the rails already. Let's talk about Penei Sewell. Can we just talk about Penei Sewell?
No, I want to get first just general thoughts on the draft before we jump into Penei Sewell. Just 2 minutes.
Okay. For me? Okay. I'll jump in.
No, I mean, I can give some too. It was an interesting draft. I think a lot of teams, it's not a draft where there's a lot of confusion. I think some fans maybe have some questions about what happened on day 2, but I think overall this was the first step in a very needed step for a long-term rebuild for the Lions, and every pick they really made is going to make, if these hit, long-term dividends. And look, it wasn't a sexy draft. It wasn't a lot of weapons jumping all over the board, but these were from when we had on Brett Whitefield, Kentley Platty, and Eric Schlitt. And every time, I had some quibbles, they, guys much smarter than me about the draft were jumping in and talking about why some of these picks were very sneaky. And I think we saw some of the scouting chops of Brad Holmes on display on some of these picks. And I'm not saying this. I'm not a giant lion slappy. People keep accusing me of being the anti Kool-Aid sometimes. This was hope inducing.
There were two things the two major themes that I got out of this Lions draft class. One is that needs was not high on their priority list. They were getting dudes. They were getting guys that they liked, guys that were high on their draft boards, and kind of said to hell with it, with everything else. And a lot of the focus is on the back-to-back defensive tackles. But really, the third pick in that day, the outside quarterback in Ifeatu Melifonwu, that wasn't a pick of need. Lions didn't necessarily need an outside corner, which is where I think he's going to play. They needed a slot, and they didn't get one. And to me, that's not a problem. I'd rather they go out and start off their rebuild by just getting as many of their dudes in here. Many of the guys, national analysts are calling them kneecap biters. Brad Holmes is calling them gritty players. I'm calling them physical guys that love the game of football, that are high character, and guys that are going to give it to you every single practice, every single snap. And, that's that. And then the other thing is that these guys are all athletic. From top to bottom, maybe outside of Jamar Jefferson at the end, these guys are super, super athletic guys that have high RAS scores, guys that are going to bring speed on defense, pass rushing on defense, attack. And I mean, that alone is a breath of fresh air. I have some quibbles here and there with maybe some of the value picks or maybe some of the players they got specifically. But in terms of, I thought it was a sound strategy, and I'm excited about the speed.
To speak to that point that you just made, Jeremy, about your second observation with this draft in terms of the Lions being more concerned with getting athletic players, Kent just tweeted out something within the past 8 minutes that said, for those curious, the 2021 draft class for the Lions was, in fact, tied for the most players they've ever drafted with a RAS over 8 in any class in the last 35 years. And it's tied with the 2019 class, Hawk, Johnson, Harris, Oruwariye, and Fulgham. But I mean, that's really what stood out to me too. The Lions went best player available, and there was nothing more determining of that approach than day two when they went with a defensive tackle out of Washington, Onwuzurike, and then followed that up with Aleem McNeil. And obviously, I think some people were scratching their heads with those picks in particular, but we're going to get to that. So why don't we just start right up at the top with Penei Sewell?
Let's start with Penei Sewell, because I think the storyline of Penei Sewell is becoming more and more fascinating as the day is going on, even as I'm starting to see some Lions fans start to get really mad about missing Justin Fields, if you can even call that missing. And I guarantee you that 80% of that is because Fields did go to the Bears. And look, good on the Bears. They gave away next year's first round pick to go up and get Justin Fields. And they don't have a great offensive line to protect him. Lions aren't going to have that problem because they drafted Penei Sewell, who apparently was the third player, I believe, Jeremy, on Brad Holmes' own big board after, maybe, I would believe, Trevor Lawrence and maybe Trey Lance. He was high up on Trey Lance.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what Brad Holmes' board looked like, but he did talk with Dave Burkett throughout the weekend and kind of gave a lot of hints. And I mean, it's 100% clear they got the guy that they wanted. He talked about being on the phone with the Dolphins, being on the phone with the Bengals about potentially trading up and getting Penei Sewell.
trading up for a tackle there. Yeah,
I'm glad they didn't. Let's be clear here, because you know how I feel about trades in the draft. They should really only go in one direction, and it's not up. But they got the guy they wanted. Trey Lance, I guess. He had said to Dave Burkett, once Trey Lance was off the board, it was clear we weren't getting a quarterback. And so that means, that tells you all that you need to know what they thought about Justin Fields. So they stuck with their guns. They stuck with their board. They got a guy that I think is a top 5 talent in this draft class, and they got him at a good deal at 7. And I thought it was the right pick if they were going to stay there. I always, I'm team trade down, so that was my first priority. But in terms of when I really got sold on the pick, it wasn't when we saw Brad Holmes go crazy in the draft room. It wasn't when I started watching tape or anything like that. It was his press conference right afterwards, and it was talking to his head coach at Oregon. Because, his press conference, you could see the hunger, you could see the excitement, you could see the maturity, all that sort of thing. And then when I talked to his head coach at Oregon, he just told us how impressive he was from day one. And mind you, day one is when he is 17 freaking years old. And he's already turning heads on the entire team. He's already getting a veteran offensive lineman to say, hey, put this guy in the starting lineup. I need to play beside him. And he goes out, starts at left tackle as a 17-year-old and dominates and never looks back. And so put all that together, put the tape aside, and then you watch the tape and the guy moves, as you said, Chris, like a defensive end. Like, that dude is fast as hell. I think they're going to run 1 billion screens to the right because he's going to come out there and just blow people up. I'm super excited. I can't get more thrilled about the Penei Sewell pick at this point.
Violent intentions. That's Penei Sewell's own words. He plays with violent intentions. It's a very heavy metal song right there. He just wants to just get after you, and I don't expect that. I'm not used to that out of a tackle. But Ryan, what'd you think of the pick before I give more of my own thoughts?
Well, I go back to draft night on Thursday, and Penei Sewell's the pick, and Jeremy, in a kind way, calls me out for my lack of reaction to Penei Sewell getting picked. And I just want to think back to 2017 when Frank Ragnow was the pick at number 20. And there really wasn't any reaction that I had to Frank Ragnow either, because it's an offensive lineman. So like how like up or down are you going to get when it comes to that? But personally for me, as I reflect on Penei Sewell being the pick, he was clearly, aside from Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts, I would have put him number 3 on my big board. Rashawn Slater was right there too, and I was a big fan of Slater all throughout the process. Do I have questions about whether or not it's going to be an easy transition for Sewell to make from left side to right side? That's going to remain until training camp, and training camp's going to happen. And if any indication of how this guy, as Jeremy mentioned, came in, into a situation in Oregon where he started at left tackle as a 17-year-old and kicked ass from day one, do I have like major concerns that he can make that transition over to the right side? No. Like I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I think that he will be able to do that, because I don't think that Brad Holmes would have locked himself into Penei Sewell if he thought that was going to be a problem, because Taylor Decker is here for the foreseeable future. Yep. Like, and he's going to be the team's left tackle. Now, is there an opportunity where things might switch? Because I remember when Taylor Decker came in 2016 and the Lions had Riley Reif, and they played around with the idea of having Taylor Decker play on the right side. And then they're like, nope, like we're going to put Taylor Decker at left tackle. And, all that stuff aside, Sewell as a prospect, getting him at 7, whether or not I had Slater ahead of him or not, like there's incredible value there. And it was I could even make the argument that the Sewell pick was Brad Holmes addressing the Lions' biggest need. They needed a right tackle. That was the only thing they were missing on their offensive line. And I think even back to Jeremy's original point about the Melifonwu pick, the Lions didn't need an outside corner. But what Brad Holmes did during free agency is he plugged all these holes with these stopgaps that really afforded him the opportunity to draft best player available at every single selection in the draft. And that started at number 7 with Penei Sewell. He followed through on it. I'm really excited about what Holmes was able to do over the course of the weekend. And he even traded up at one point for Derek Barnes.
Yeah, you said that like it was a good thing, though.
I'm excited about Derek Barnes. I think that's a great
we'll
pick.
get to that.
We'll get him.
So real quick, I'm over the moon on Penei Sewell, maybe because I've been listening to too many former offensive linemen, be it Jeff Schwartz or Lincoln Kennedy or name them, and I keep looking again. I look again at the fact that Tampa Bay had like maybe allowed three quarterback what's the right term? It's not hurries, pressures, QB pressures. Yeah, allowed like 3 or 4 QB pressures in the Super Bowl and no sacks. And Patrick Mahomes, great as he is without his starting offensive tackles, is out there running for his life and loses the game. This is just I keep saying it on every podcast. I saw a Detroit column saying it was outdated thinking to be going and building on the offensive line. I've got nothing to help you there, man. Like, I've got nothing to help you if that's how you think things work in the NFL right now. And we're going to talk about, like, we keep bringing up the defensive tackles. There is a lot of needs, I think more needs on this team than some people realize. This team isn't just a quarterback away. It's not just some wide receivers away. And when the board fell that way, when you had 3 quarterbacks off the board, and then the Bengals and the Dolphins take wide receivers back to back, they take Chase and they take Waddle, and you have Sewell who falls right into your lap. I'm with Brad Holmes. I don't need the rest of that clock because I'm watching what Sewell did in college. I'm watching that tape, and I'm watching and I'm seeing what that can do. That moves your entire offense. And offensive tackles are players that just give you, they're great. They're great value in a draft because they play for you for a long time if they're good. And they don't really leave your team if they're good because, they like playing with a team, and hopefully, they're open to extensions. And Sewell apparently grew up as a Lions fan. So that's like a great story there. I have no problems with it. I think I gave this pick a solid A. I understand maybe if people wanted Justin Fields, but again, I would rather take this. I would rather take Sewell, who is, in my mind, is probably one of the more exciting tackle prospects we've had in a few years. And then you can figure out the quarterback in a year or two, because this project to rebuild the Lions is going to take a couple of years. And there's more ways to get your quarterback than just, at the top of the draft. But guess what? You're not going to get star offensive tackles through free agency. And usually they're not going to be coming out through trades because, you look who the Lions, look at some of the guys the Lions have gotten in free agency for their offensive line. It's been, Vaitai, TJ Lang, but like they're just kind of loose parts. They're not foundations. You get your foundations on your line through the draft, full stop. And Sewell, I have to say it again. We talk about best player available. Just, man, he looks good. Man, he looks aggressive. He looks like, as you say, Jeremy, they're going to run a lot of sweeps, screens, just really keep him involved in all aspects of the game.
There are a couple quick things I want to get there before we move on to our next guys, because you guys have probably heard enough about Sewell. But there's a couple things. Like, one is that the critique that they're going old school instead of new school. I think a lot of that stems from the quote from Chris Spielman. And let's be clear, Chris Spielman is not Brad Holmes. Chris Spielman is the one that said maybe today's football is built from the outside instead of the inside out. And that got a bunch of people excited, saying like, oh, look, now they're adopting modern football and things like that. But modern football still requires good play on the defensive line, good play on the offensive line. And you can look to any team that's had success and find that to be true. And then the other thing,
I think some modern football is still built from the inside out too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And the other point being that I don't care what order this rebuild comes in. And it's something that I've been saying this for months and months leading up to this draft, where people are harping on, we got to get a wide receiver in this draft. We have to get a quarterback in this draft. We have to get a starting linebacker. We have to get a starting safety. No, you don't. Because the 2021 Lions don't need anything. The 2022 Lions need something. The 2023 Lions need something, because those are the ones that are actually going to compete for division titles and playoffs and God forbid a Lombardi trophy one day. So get your long-term needs in now, because you got all of them. All of your needs are long-term needs at this point. So if you grab an offensive tackle because you think he's the best player on the board, good. We can wait on a quarterback because we got time.
Yeah. Let me tell you what, the Dave Burkett piece today, it really soothed a lot of my anxieties that I had, because I was somebody who was in on Justin Fields. But and maybe that was part of the reaction and why when Sewell was the pick and it wasn't Justin Fields, it was like, oh, okay. Holmes went the very like high floor, low risk pick. They're taking the offensive tackle. But knowing that Holmes was in on Trey Lance, tells me something very important. And what it tells me is that he's not locked into Jared Goff. Okay. This is a guy who scouted Jared Goff. The team that drafted him moved up to get him. The team that, Brad Holmes was a part of extended Jared Goff. Could you find a quarterback that's more different than Jared Goff than Trey Lance? Like, that gives me a lot of confidence in Brad Holmes' ability to scout quarterbacks, because if Trey Lance was at the top of their board, you couldn't find a more polar opposite prospect than Jared Goff. So, like, that totally washes away, and it makes me feel even more confident about their evaluation of Penei Sewell and their selection of Penei Sewell.
Yeah, like the fact that he targeted Trey Lance, and when he couldn't get Trey Lance, he wasn't willing to then go and reach for the next best thing, which had been Justin Fields at that position. He then went best player available. It's investment for the future. And there's going to be more to quarterbacks next year. I don't care how many people try to trot out the line that next year's quarterback class isn't going to be that good. You're going to talk yourself into that class. But guess what? Lions have capital in 2022 and 2023. They'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think we've wasted enough time here. Why don't we take a quick break? Let's talk about day 2, day 3. Just keep going through. We're going down this draft in order as best we can. We're going to give some more thoughts at the end, because I know Ryan's kind of turned up for something. Before we go to break real quick, we had a charity stream way back, and Jeremy and I have, it's been a busy season, so we haven't really gotten to pay them all back. I am now paying back the haikus that we have promised to people about. Yeah, what is it now, Jeremy? 4 or 5 months ago?
Yeah, one of the perks there were several perks of our charity drive, but one of them was that Chris would personalize a haiku on a Detroit Lions topic of your choosing.
Yeah, some of these are a little sad in retrospect, because some people have asked for ones on Stafford.
Oh no!
I will still deliver those, but
you didn't emotionally prepare me for that.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. But we start this week with Tyler Bostador, and I should have done this off the top. Bad job by me. Tyler Bostador asked me to deliver a haiku on the Lions-Cowboys Stafford fake spike game. So if I'm going to buddy up to the mic a little bit here. Let me deliver them. I don't really have like a... Okay. He deceives them all. A flourish in confusion. Foe falls to the gambit. No, you don't snap on a haiku. What are you guys doing?
I do.
Beat next to it. Wow. Okay. Well, that's one down. I believe I have, let's see here, 7 more to go. So we will be delivering those to you through the offseason. Lions haikus, and at some point we'll do more charity drives, and I'll continue to deliver those because I'm a dork. Anyway, we're taking a quick break. We'll be right back on the Pride of Detroit PODcast, recapping the entire 2021 draft class. All right. I saw a 10 bomb to start us off.
We
Jeremy
did get a 10 bomb. I also have bad news for you, Chris, that I realized about 20 minutes into that segment.
What's up? Oh, we don't have
the recorders not there.
We don't have our recorders. So I turned off the alert box for the last half. So we might just have to rip this from the YouTube or the Twitch, but
yeah, but there was that 10 bomb alert on it. So God damn. Okay. I am so sorry.
That's all right. We'll be all right. But yeah, Zern Baby Zern with the 10 gifted subs, and then we had a bunch of follows after that.
When did you turn that off?
About halfway through. I mean, you're definitely going to have that alert and maybe some follow alerts in there that are going to be an issue. But what was it? Okay.
No, I'm just kicking Craig, just so we have only one.
But yeah, thank you for the 10 gifted Zern, Baby Zern, and I know he said he said something about my mustache, and so let me. I don't have. This was just an upper lip warmer, so there we go.
I think Zern Baby Zern also redeemed an impromptu list cast.
Oh, did he?
I have not seen. He needs to give us the topic, though. We need the topic from you, Zern.
And by the way, I know we have a bunch of new viewers here. Just so you are aware of how this works when we do our podcast things, we record 3 different segments, about 15-20 minutes each, and then in between segments we answer your questions, we chat, we dick around for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then we jump right back into it. So It's definitely longer.
Jeremy, some people have said you're a little quiet too. So
I can lean in a little bit or turn my gain up a little bit.
Well, you're fine on my end, so I think you just need to turn yourself up in your Streamlabs. That's all.
I will do that. Hopefully that's a little bit better. But anyways, we like to mess around. It's very, very informal in between segments, and definitely not as polished, quote unquote polished, as maybe if you listen on just audio.
I don't have the listcast topic from Zern yet.
There is top 2021 draft picks for Lions. So you just want us to listcast our favorites? We could do that at the end. That could kind of be our little recap. Rank. Well,
he asked for impromptu, so I'd like to do it through here. I think also because we went a little long there too. We'll have to figure out how to cram all it in. So I don't mind doing it here.
All right, go for it.
All right. Sewell 1, McNeil 2. I think Kentley Platty and Brett Whitefield both really sold me on him super, super hard. I'm going to show people are going to complain about me being USC again. Amon-Ra St. Brown is my third one there. I think that was a hell of a steal in round 4 to get that, and it's a well-needed wide receiver too. And I have notes on Amon-Ra that we're going to talk about. He's also going to win the name bracket. I think that's.
I don't think he will.
I feel like we're doing some sort of bias towards Nigerian names here. If he's not going to, he is literally named. He's literally named after an Egyptian god, and he has Saint in the name as well.
A lot of people have Saint in their name.
Let's see. 3, then I would say Onzarike. I would probably put Derek Barnes 4, Melifonwu 5, Jefferson 6.
Okay. Do you want to go, Ryan?
Yeah, sure. Penei Sewell, Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike would be my number 3. Melifonwu 4. I'm pretty much going almost in order of their draft selection.
Close enough. You had 1, 3, 2, 4.
Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Derek Barnes, and then the running back
Jefferson. Yeah, mine's pretty similar. Penei Sewell, Aleem McNeil, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Levi Onwuzurike, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then I have questions with the other two. Actually, I don't care. I don't really care about Jamar Jefferson. No offense to the guy, but like,
wow, you don't care about him.
I don't care about like me saying like I don't know if he ever really actually is going to see the field because he was the third to last pick in the NFL.
Yeah, I know he was saying like I was expecting to go a lot sooner, but just because he was expecting to go a lot sooner doesn't mean I think we shared that sentiment.
I mean, some people did. A lot of people had like a 5th, 6th round grade on him, but
I guess
that's surprising, especially because I know Jeremy. I mean, you think that Kerryon Johnson's going to make the roster, but
yeah,
I mean, he has competition now. That's for sure.
No, I mean, they in terms of need, like I was on this feed on Saturday saying like I wouldn't be surprised if that last pick is a running back because they have no depth. They literally only have 3 running backs on the roster, and now they have him and I think at least 1 UDFA.
McNeil is such an interesting fact that we've all picked him second. I think we'll talk about it in the segment about like, you know, some of the guys we talked to said this was a 1st round grade on him. Apparently the Eagles were trying to get him too, and that's one of the dangers of trading back is sometimes your guy just isn't there when then you turn around.
That is the danger of trading.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but like to target him after Onwuzurike was I don't know. I mean, I obviously don't know their board. I don't know if they had a strategy about who would be available when. It's just fascinating, but I think it is that McNeil was so buried that makes it exciting.
Oh man, sorry. I'm here. I'm doing it.
It was a long weekend for us. You'll all have to forgive some yawns.
We'll try not to do some. We'll not try to do too long breaks, just so you know.
Yeah, we can jump right back into it. I'm ready.
Because apparently now I need to go fix this first segment because I'm an idiot.
Oh, I should probably throw a logo too over this guy. There we go.
Yeah, I deeply apologize. Like we should not. I almost want to ask you guys to redo that one, but unfortunately, yeah, Brian's already shaking his head.
Sorry to our podcast listeners. You're gonna have to deal with it. We'll get one
angry
review and be like,
"This
is my first time listening, and there's alerts in here. What the?"
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Jeremy is not here for people's complaining.
Nah. All positive vibes today, baby.
Round 2?
Sorry.
Let's do it.
Yeah, sorry. I ate something bad, so I'm like taking a second to like get some air in my lungs. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Welcome back to the Pride of Detroit POD cast. So we went a little long on round 1 there, but I want to talk now as we go to day 2. I might as well package these two guys together because this was fascinating that the Lions did double dip on day 2 between round 2 and round 3 on defensive tackles. They first picked up with pick 41, Levi Onwuzurike, defensive tackle out of Washington. And then about 31 picks later at pick 72, took Alan McNeil, another defensive tackle, technically a nose tackle, out of NC State. And these were very interesting picks because I think some Lions fans, again, we just had this conversation about best player available, about talent versus positional need. And I think some fans at first were kind of had concerns that the Lions were taking defensive tackles, but if you listen to our live show, I think it was Kent Lee Platty Mathbomb who joined in and basically was talking about, look, this defensive line, the interior is in a lot worse state than I think we know. You know, that the fact that this is just not a good, like they've improved some of the edges, but the interior is not good. It's not arranged for how interior defensive lines really operate right now. It was made to be big guys to hold up the run, whereas Levi and McNeil are definitely more guys who can bring you pressure up the middle on passers.
Yeah, let's start with Levi because he's an interesting one. I like the Aleem McNeil pick a little bit better, but Levi is a guy that the Brad Holmes said he almost traded up to get in the first round, so he had a very high, grade on him. But he's a little bit of a project because at Washington, they had him at the nose tackle, and he showed some pass rushing skills there. And he only had 7 sacks in 3 years, but a lot of people project his skill set because he's very twitchy, very fast, extremely fast first step, and a guy who can pass the rush when given the opportunity. But when you're right in front of the center, you don't really have that opportunity as much. So a lot of people project him to be a 3-tech. I think that's where he's going to be here, the Deshaun Hand role, essentially. Which definitely puts his job, or at least his future, in question here in Detroit. But it's a projection, right? He didn't have a ton of snaps over there at Washington, so there's a little bit of risk there. But the athletic profile is there. If you listen to his press conference, the desire is there, the want is there, the grit is there. He wants to just fuck shit up, in his words. And so it's an exciting pick because the Lions need that interior pass rush, but there's definitely a little bit of risk here. And it's kind of surprising, at least for me, to hear that Brad Holmes almost went up and got him the same way he almost went up and got Penei Sewell, just because there is a little bit of risk there.
There is some projection there. I think, though, when you look at the rest of the defensive line, we talked about this, Jeremy, on our Locker Room podcast, and we probably talked about it here as well, but the one relative strength that we saw on paper when it came to the defense was the defensive line. Like we all looked there and said, if there's a unit that is more ready than any other unit on defense for the 2021 season, it's the defensive line. There's questions at cornerback, there's questions at linebacker, there's questions at safety. So I think what was ultimately surprising about this pick, first and foremost, was it was at a position that there was a perceived strength. So it was like, okay, so the Lions are going this was my first indication that it was like, all right, Lions they're going BPA. They're taking best player available. And, Dane Brugler, from The Athletic, he had a first/second round grade on him, had him number 29 overall on his big board. So, that kind of coincides with Brad Holmes talking about potentially moving back up in the first round to get him.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that the Patriots moved up to get Christian Barmore, an interior defensive lineman that a lot of people had pegged as the number one defensive tackle. Whether or not that altered plans or Brad Holmes just had Levi number one on his board when it came to interior defensive linemen. But I'm excited about this pick because I do think he played out of position. You watch him on tape, that's not a guy who should be lining up over the center. That's a guy who they should let him pin his ears back and just get after the quarterback because he has all the athleticism in the world. He's almost kind of like too athletic at times. It seems like he just needs to stay off the ground because he's just way too eager at times. But that's something that I think the Lions can hone. And the one thing that I do love about draft weekend in general is just seeing the prospects' reactions on Twitter and over the course of the weekend. Cause Levi was he's asking questions about kneecaps. He's like, what the hell is all this about? He's all in. And I'm excited about him as a prospect because the one last thing I'll say, Nick Williams is not the long-term solution for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to jump in really quick and say is I don't think defensive tackle was ever viewed as a big need because the Lions had bodies there, right? They have a guy who the last regime had high hopes for in Nick Williams, in Deshaun Hand, and they went and got Michael Brocker. So they have guys there, and they really have if you want to go 2 or 3 rounds deep, they have bodies there. They didn't at linebacker, which is why I think a lot of people were surprised by this pick when Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was still on the board, and people preferred that, But you're right. If you look down the line, like I said, this is a long-term rebuild. You look down the line, Michael Brockers is great, but he's probably only going to be in your roster for 2 years. Deshaun Hand's contract is up. Who else is a long-term player at defensive tackle? The only other one signed beyond 2021 is I almost said Penei Sewell, John Penei, and I think that might lead us pretty well into our next pick.
Yeah, before we do that, because you said you brought up Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and look, I had been pounding the table insanely hard for JOK. He ends up going to the Cleveland Browns, but I kept thinking about it afterwards, and maybe this is me doing some copium a little bit, but also at the same time, again, talking to people smarter than me on the draft, that it's funny. I wonder how much the struggles of Isaiah Simmons being picked for Arizona last year hurt JOK in that it's clear that NFL teams don't know what to do with tweener linebackers right now. And JOK is a tweener. He's able to do quite a bit of pass rush, but I think some people see him in a lot of coverage roles. So, and I don't know if, we need to figure out what their vision is for their linebackers and their scheme for that. And yeah, you mentioned the next pick, Jeremy, and I think this is where I got over my despair over JOK because I started to see the plan come into place. And that was Aleem McNeil out of NC State, where you were talking about Levi playing out of position at nose tackle. Aleem McNeil is built to play nose tackle.
Yeah, no question about it. And a lot of people maybe look at that pick and say, we got John Penei. Why are we doing this? But John Penei is a 2-gapping guy, which basically means he eats up space and tries to fill 2 running gaps. So if you're in the middle, you're filling both A gaps. That is not what the Lions want to do anymore. That is not what he's capable of. That's not what Aleem McNeil is either. Aleem McNeil is, again, pass rushing type. Definitely still a big-bodied guy that can stop the run, but he's got that quick first step. He's a guy that can just get up the field and also just draw the guy back. He's strong. He's maybe a little bit smaller than a Patriots nose tackle, but he's fast. Again, athleticism, and he can rush the passer, drive the pocket in, and that's the one thing. The Lions have had okay edge rushers over the past couple of years. They've gotten Trey Flowers, they've gotten Okwara, but they haven't had that guy that pushes the pocket from within that makes those guys' jobs a lot easier. And so combined with Levi, I think Aleem McNeil makes a ton of sense and is a position of need, even though they had a guy at nose tackle already.
And I think this is to speak again, because you keep invoking, kind of the old regime too. Like, this is, at the end of the day, the reason why this investment is needed is to get that change in philosophy, to go from, hey, we want to stop the run, to, hey, we should be putting a hell of a lot more pressure up the middle on the passer, which is, in my mind, the right way to do it. But Ryan, what are your thoughts here?
So with Aleem McNeil, I think people will look at the pick and they'll say, well, they just took a defensive tackle. 1, 2, they're like, hey, this is a guy from NC State. He played in the ACC. Like, what are the Lions really getting in him? This is a guy who in high school, he was 6'2", 272 pounds, played running back
and outfielder on his baseball team.
The only reason he stayed in North Carolina was because that's where he was from. He got offers from Alabama. He got offers from Virginia Tech. He got offers from Ohio State. Like, this is a guy who was highly coveted coming out of high school. And then he goes to NC State, and last season was arguably his most productive season for sure. I'm just as excited about Aleem McNeil as I am, with Levi. I think the one thing is the Lions got rid of Danny Shelton, right? Cap casualty. So I don't know if everybody was just like resigned and they were fine with John Penei, a guy who was a 6th-round pick, because he made a few plays last year. Obviously, the Lions, when they looked at their defensive front, they said, this needs to be beefed up. And they did it on day 2 with 2 picks. And I'm with it. Like, I'm here for big bodied dudes.
The one thing I want to say too is, like, I think some people might jump on 2020 was his most, you said 2020 was his most productive year. Some people will point like, well, he only had 1 sack and he had 9 through their first 2 seasons. But 2 things about that. 1, the dude just got double teamed after double team after double team because the cat was out of the bag. Number 2, he still put up an outstanding PFF grade. He still, in terms of pressures, was right on track. 11 pressures last year, 11 hurries compared to 10 the previous season. So he actually did improve in that. The sack numbers just didn't come. And we all know sack numbers can be a little finicky, especially from an interior defender.
For sure.
Yeah, like, both these guys had late first-round grades on them, and you pick them up on day 2. And you get to completely philosophically overhaul your defensive line. For the better. This team has been dying for pass rush. And it can't just be Julian Okwara out there. It needs to be or it can't be the Okwaras out there. Jeremy, I'm stumbling. I'm tired. Did I mean Romeo? Did I mean Romeo or did I mean Julian? I'm gonna get the two confused.
Can't jump inside your head. Let's just move on to if
either way. All right. Yeah. Yes. I was going to. I'm sorry. Being adequate here. Is that how you say the name? What?
Ifatu.
Okay. I've been trying to get the pronunciation guides up, but I'm tired. The Lions have added 2 Nigerians on the defense. I think that brings the total, Jeremy, to 7.
Something like that. I don't have my tracker up.
So between them, Okuda, Oruwariye, and both Okwara brothers.
There you go.
So I know Okuda was making a big deal of that on Twitter last night. But they get Ifatu Melifonwu, cornerback out of Syracuse with pick 101, and some help maybe for the defensive backs. Although, Jeremy, as you said, an outside corner. So Lions weren't really too much in need for that. It wasn't that pressing of a need. But what do you think the Lions are getting with Melifonwu?
I mean, this is a purely, at least to me, a value pick, and Brad Holmes basically said as much. He was shocked to see him there at the end of day 2, so they just grabbed him. And I don't know, I'm intrigued by him. He's got all the physical tools again. Speedy dude, tall dude, long. What is he, 6'2" or something like that? So definitely built to be an NFL corner, I would think, on the outside. Some are talking about safety, and Brad Holmes admitted that he could potentially play safety, could potentially slide inside. But he also said, a lot of people have labeled Ifatu Melifonwu as a press corner because of that size, as someone who can play press coverage really well. But he said what he really fell in love with Melifonwu was looking at the film. Suddenly he's off coverage. He found him to be he saw the short area quickness. He saw the ability to kind of stick with guys on the side and stay in phase. But he still didn't put it really all together in college. His production is not there. He doesn't have a lot of pass breakups, doesn't have a lot of getting his hands on the ball. So I think, again, it's taking the physical skill sets that he sees in pockets, and he's trusting his coaching staff to build that guy up. And so I don't think this guy is necessarily a starter in week 1, but he's going to be there in competition. He's going to, push a guy like Amani Oruwariye, who everyone knows I apparently hate. And I'm just kidding. I don't hate him. But it's going to build competition. I mean, Quentin Dunbar's there as well. So it's going to be a very interesting kind of camp battle to keep your eye on. And I'm not sure where he fits in year 1. But if the Lions really trust their coaching staff, and we know they definitely do, I think he's a guy that could, definitely build into that CB2 role aside Jeff Okudah.
Yeah, I think the Melifonwu pick was interesting from the perspective that it kind of clued us into what kind of cornerbacks that Brad Holmes might like on the outside, because you think about, the Dunbar acquisition that you just mentioned, Jeremy. That's another guy who's 6'2", 205 pounds, pretty similar in terms of build to Melifonwu. But, the one thing that stood out to me, I was watching the ESPN telecast, and everybody's favorite GM that still isn't a GM, Louis Riddick, was doing their draft coverage. He said that this guy is going to be a star. Like, he was like very adamant, like a former defensive back, Louis Riddick, whatever. Take it for what it's worth. Okay, he's a talking head on ESPN, but he was like pounding the table for like how sure he was that Melifonwu is going to put it all together. And you know what? He couldn't be coming to a better situation, right? I mean, Aaron Glenn, this is your opportunity to show that, hey, maybe if you don't have, Marshawn Lattimore, if you don't have guys like Janoris Jenkins, like, can you make these guys into something that this team desperately needs? And I'm with you, Jeremy. I don't think Melifonwu is a guy who I look at and say is going to start week 1, is going to even maybe start week 12. He might not start at all. He might just see some situational things in terms of his play. Does that bother me that the Lions did that for a guy that they got in the 3rd round? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because I think they first need to figure out what they have at the top of their depth chart. And Melifonwu fits in from a long-term perspective.
Yeah, and I think the main gripe that people have for that pick is just like they don't feel the value met the need there. And again, I think this is just Brad Holmes saying,
who cares about need?
Who cares about need? Yeah, because you look at Dane Brugler, he has a round 2 grade on this guy, but I don't know. You look at a guy like Ambry Thomas, who's literally the next pick. Ambry Thomas might start at nickel if he was on the Lions, but who cares? Again, I mean,
at the same time they signed Cornelder,
right? They have a body there, but again, it's all about the long-term rebuild. And if you get a good outside corner that you think could, be your CB2 alongside Jeff Okudah, it's probably more valuable than a nickel corner. And again, we're talking about value long-term. We're not talking about value in 2021, because you don't build in the draft for the immediate. You build for the draft in the future. And if the Lions got a CB2 out of Melifonwu instead of a day 1 starting nickel corner who may or may not be good, but is clearly below Melifonwu on Brad Holmes' board, well, then I'm okay with that.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to get into day 3 and a guy I'm extremely excited to talk about. Almost too excited to talk about, because I get to feel smart when talking about this guy. And we're going to give final thoughts on the draft. Obviously, we get all the rounds from day 3. I know Ryan has some very good parting thoughts. You don't want to miss those. We'll close up shop here next on the Pride of Detroit PODcast. I am sorry for getting the acquirers screwed up. I was just spooked from, not putting in the recorder.
It's fine. Let me catch up on a couple alerts. 23 Top Gun, thank you for the follow on Twitch, and same with Driz T734. He's going to talk about his USC boy.
You damn right I am.
Damn right he is.
I am so tired of sitting here and being accused of bias about USC when every time there's a Michigan guy who comes up, you guys just start to really pound the table for your Michigan men.
Nah. Not this year.
By the way,
shout out MSU.
Sad news. Yeah, the streak finally ends.
Oh, yeah.
We are now down. What?
Sad news.
Sad news. Yeah. So there were 4 teams in the modern era. I mean, 4 colleges in the modern era that had athletes picked in every NFL draft, and that was Florida, Michigan, USC, and Michigan State. And Shakur Brown, who was the only real Spartan prospect in this draft, was not drafted. I think he was picked up as an undrafted free agent. I forget where he went.
He did. He almost went immediately. I don't know who it was.
Yeah, he got signed by the Steelers actually.
Oh, yeah.
But he was not drafted, so it is now just 3 schools. Michigan State. My friend Ross, who was a huge Sparty slappy, was kind of upset about that. He just wanted to see the streak kept alive. But yeah.
Wiggles LFC asked favorite UDFA, and I'm gonna be straight up honest with you, Wiggle. Maybe the other guys have a different opinion, but once the draft was over, I'm tired as hell. I want to think about nothing other than drafts. So when those names are coming in, I throw them all on a list and I say, okay, I'll look and see who the hell these guys actually are. A couple days later. Today, I chilled. I did a little bit of work at the top, but I chilled because I'm working on 6 hours of sleep or something like that in the first 2 days. So I don't have an answer for you is what I'm trying to say, because I don't know anything about these guys. I don't know much of anything. Sage Surratt is really the only one that pops out as a name that I at least know a little bit about. They gave Javon I mean, the things that stick out to me about the UDFA class is they got 3 wide receivers, they got 3 Notre Dame guys, and they got a couple running backs. So they're filling out it's almost like they're using UDFA to really fill out their needs because they need camp bodies. And so I'm not going to get super excited about any of these guys necessarily, but I do expect a handful of them probably to make the team.
Yeah, I like Sage Surratt a lot. I think in a lot of our mock drafts, every time he would come up on a day 3 pick, I would be like, yeah, that sounds actually pretty cool. Let's go after Sage Surratt. He is an interesting prospect. He's rough around the edges, but I think he topped, I think, 1,000 yards as a sophomore. He's interesting, man. I don't have too much else to say. He's not as athletic, but that's why he's in a UDFA. But he looks real good. I also think the other guy that piqued my interest was, I'm trying to find the name, D'Angelo Amos, safety out of Virginia. He had a lot of interest as a return man, and I think he's going to be a interesting. Probably might make the team as on special teams.
You got anyone, Ryan, or no? You can be honest.
We got 2.5 months to figure out who these guys are.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I know.
I'll just throw this in about Amos. Like before he transferred to Virginia, he played at James Madison. He returned 5 punts for touchdowns.
There you go. Lions do need that. No Jamal Agnew anymore.
Yeah.
Uncle Indigo apparently gave us another list cast. I didn't see it, so you're gonna have to say it again. It's a fairly easy one. Don't want you guys to work too hard. Okay. What? Over under 5 UDFAs making the roster. Is that what a question was as well? That's an interesting one. 5's a pretty good number. I'll go under, but not by much. Like I can see 4.
I'll go under as well. I think UDFAs are just a rough ask, and I think we'll start to see some more free agents who have maybe been hanging around. Yeah, maybe people start poking at the rosters.
That's one thing I think we should also consider, and I know we're going to have an article or two on it this week, is the Lions aren't done with free agency.
Yeah, no one is.
They're probably going to get a slot. They're probably going to get a safety. I think it's safe to say they get both of those spots, and that's, I mean,
yeah,
not to mention that last segment, but yeah,
I think I can at least pencil in D'Angelo Amos to probably make the roster again, just because of what he fills, but everyone else, I don't know.
Uncle Indigo's topic, by the way, is top 3 Lions GMs.
In the modern era? or all time?
I mean, I think they only have about 8 ever.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. So here are your choices. You can either Dutch Clark in the 30s, Graham Smith in the 40s, the early 40s, Bo McMillan. Oh God, there was a McMillan back in the day. I didn't even know that. For 3 years, Nick Kerboe from 51 to 57. So that guy's probably number one since Lions won a couple championships then. Edwin Anderson, Russ Thomas, Chuck Smith, Matt Millen, Bill Tobin doesn't really count. I don't know why he's on there. Martin
Well, there's
Mayhew.
also Sheldon White is on here too, and he was an interim, so he doesn't count either.
Bob Quinn. And then go ahead, Ryan. I like that smile, whatever that face is.
That's my Bob Quinn smile.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'll give you my top 3. Ready? Number 1, Brad Holmes.
Okay. He's made the least mistake, the fewest amount of mistakes of any Lions GM in history.
That's for sure. Number 2, talking about the guy who traded Matthew Stafford, by the way. Let's see how that turns out. 2, Martin Mayhew, like,
slightly underrated.
I don't know. Yeah,
he's doing a good job.
He caught a lot. Yeah, I think he caught a lot of shit around here.
Yeah.
But I mean, God, the job that he inherited.
Yeah, took over in 2008 and brought. I mean, he built a Super Bowl contending team in 3 years. In 2011 or 2014, so 6 years. But 2011 they made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs, so it's more than Matt Millen can say.
Sure. Is there a 3?
Yeah, Dutch Clark. What a great name.
Back in
first one ever.
Interesting era. I was going to say, yeah. So I'm going to put Chuck Schmidt as my number 1 just because, like, well, I mean, it doesn't take much to say, hey, great, you didn't pass up on Barry Sanders. But he also did a lot of work with the free agency that kind of kept the line. Like the Lions in the 90s went through a lot of different quarterbacks, but they got decent value out of the ones they did, I guess. But I mean, hey, he's the general manager of the 90s. So, and that was the last time the Lions had some good success. So I'll throw him on there. I agree with you on Martin Mayhew right now. Just because I think it's just, he caught a lot of flack for some of the picks, but obviously, I mean, does all right. I'm not going to include Brad Holmes just because we've only had 1 draft with him. But then, yeah, Dutch Clark on there. Lions were very good in the 30s.
Number 3, Martin Mayhew. Number 2, Brad Holmes. Number 1, Nick Kerboe. I couldn't tell you one thing about Nick Kerboe except that the Lions won 3 championships under him, and they went 55, 27, and 2. So
pretty good.
I think he did okay.
Yeah, pretty damn good.
Third segment.
Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
Really quick, thank you, DrizzT734, who I shouted out earlier for just following. He just subscribed. Appreciate it. Thank you for the subscription. By the way, look at that number. We are so close to 1,000. I'm not going to do any begging or anything, but we're at 941, which is incredible, considering in a normal, quote unquote, normal month, we're around the 200 range. So appreciate all the crazy support we've had over the past month. You guys are fantastic.
Yes, you are.
All right, let's start it up. Because I'm going to have to go and salvage that first segment now. Third segment, third block on the Pride of Detroit POD-cast. Thanks for sticking with us. This has been an insane, very long, and very fun draft season here. And I get it. You don't win championships by winning the draft, but Lions get to be included, and it feels fun, Jeremy. Feels very fun to do the draft every year.
Yeah, and we're actually getting good feedback nationally. Lions had a top 7 draft class. If you cram all of the draft grades together, Lions had a top 7 draft class. You look at the value and in terms of what it compared to some consensus consensus big boards. Lions were top 6, I think, in terms of getting value out of every pick. So people are excited about the Lions draft class, even some outside of Detroit.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm excited about our next guy here. So we move into day 4, and we are talking about at pick 112 out of USC, out of the University of Southern California, Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think I'm quite as high on this pick as a lot of people. I thought it was funny that Brad Holmes said, like, yeah, I finally got people off my ass by drafting a wide receiver. But it almost feels like he forced this one a little bit. I'm not trying to hate on him. I think he's got extremely good hands. He's a great contested catch, receiver, and I think he's going to be a red zone weapon. And I actually think he probably starts day 1 because the Lions don't have a slot guy, and now they do. But he's not a guy that really does anything particularly great. He's not bad at anything. He's got good hands, but he's not that twitchy. He's certainly not super fast. So he's not, that option where he's just going to beat people downfield up the middle. But he's got a little short area quickness to him, and he's got decent hands. And we're talking 4th round here, so you're not going to get a perfect prospect here. The value's not horrible. Some people have had him going in day 2. So, in terms of a consensus, I think this is a good value. But I'm just not expecting the world out of this guy, and I think maybe some Lions fans need to temper expectations a little bit.
That's fair. As you were describing who St. Brown is, and I think some people have kind of made this comparison, but it just sounds like you're describing Golden Tate. Like, I wouldn't say that Golden Tate had twitchy athleticism. I wouldn't say that he was a guy that did anything particularly great. Yes, he was incredible, yards after the catch.
Yeah.
He was a yak monster from that perspective, but he wasn't a guy that went out there and was like, wow, that guy's a burner, or wow, that guy's, one of the top 5 route runners in the NFL. He was just a guy who went out there, caught passes, and did damage after the catch. So, and I've seen a lot of comparisons also to Cooper Kupp as well. And maybe that's something that really speaks volumes to Brad Holmes, somebody who was director of college scouting when he was with the Rams and they selected Cooper Kupp. So I like St. Brown. You take a look at Dane Brugler's draft guide, 2nd to 3rd round grade, had him actually as his number 67 overall prospect. PFF had a 3rd round grade on him. I'm excited about it. I think kind of like Brad Holmes. Finally, he was able to get everybody off his ass because he drafted a wide receiver. And I don't think that there was a point in the draft where the Lions needed to pick a receiver. So this is just an opportunity where I think value really met the pick.
And the one thing I'll say before I let Chris take, I know he's chomping at the bit to talk about him, his USC guy. The one thing that I think maybe helped Brad Holmes fall in love with this guy is the character, because I think this guy is an elite character. He's a dude who, all you have to do is listen to him talk about anything. He's super smart, and he's a captain. He's got that kind of eagerness that you saw him at the end of day 2. There was that picture of him just catching footballs because he's just he's pissed
from the jug machine.
Yeah. He's that kind of high character, hardworking guy that's going to give it your all, and could develop into a leader on this offense. Honestly, I just have some issues with his actual play on the field.
So you mentioned him showing him working out after he was passed over on day 2. That's a hell of a family to get that kind of competitive fire from. So his brother, in case you haven't put the dots together, is Equiminius St. Brown, who plays for the Saints. He also has a 3rd brother, Osiris St. Brown, who is right now, I believe, with Stanford. His father is John St. Brown, 2-time Mr. Universe, who apparently also likes to sing Foreigner in the car to annihilate the brains of his children in the falsetto. I don't know. I watched him at USC, as you say, super high character. He got 1st team conference accolades. He lines up in both on the wideout and the slot. I know in 2019, that's where he's probably getting the most attention because he had 844 snaps from the slot there. But other years it was about even that he wind out there. I like the Golden Tate comparison. I will say this, whereas Golden Tate was probably good at getting yak, you're getting more of a contested catch guy with St. Brown. You will watch him, have great explosion off the line, and then he will go and tie up a defender in the red zone. And then just as that defender is trying to just dance around him, he will like lunge out for a catch, bring it in for the touchdown. He is just, he's not the most speedy, but he has good athleticism, if that makes sense. He knows how to use his body. He knows how to use it well. He knows how to like really rile up defenders. And yeah, like, look, you're not getting an out of this world wide receiver. It's the 4th round, but the Lions could really use a weapon like that. And even before the wide receiver core went to crap, we've seen when good slot receivers can really turn things around and really do great work turning long drives into 6 points. And everything about, I think Amon-Ra is going to probably start day one. And between the character, between the athleticism, between the muscle he brings, it's hard for me not to, just USC bias aside, it is hard for me to not look at this and say, all right, this is like the fact that you are getting a potential starter on day 3 is impressive.
I can buy that. And there are some, I don't want to come down as a hater of this pick or anything, because the tape that I've watched on him, I really like what he can do in the red zone, because one, with that contested catch, like, you could potentially run fades with him. He's not really the tallest guy. He's also out there.
He also gives you a lot of great value for blocking.
Yes.
In the slot too. He is like, I think, the best like blocking wide receiver in this draft.
Well, and I don't even think it's necessarily his form that makes him such a good blocker. It's the character. It's that he's willing. It's that you're not going to see him take a lot of plays off. You're going to see him sell a route, and if not sell a route, he's going to try to put the guy on his ass. And again, that's what I think Brad Holmes is falling in love with a little bit. But it's also the short area quickness. I really noticed, like, you run the most popular plays in the NFL now when you're on the 1 and 2 yard line are slants, right? Like quick slants, and that's something I think Amon-Ra St. Brown actually does pretty well. And so he can get open, and against press coverage, it's all about making those contested catches. There's going to be a guy draped all over you, and he's a guy I think that has the hands that'll bring those balls in.
Yeah, very surefire hands. And 58 targets in 2020, he only had, I think, 2 drops. And he's just very good on the contested. Like Ryan said it there, like Golden Tate, good on the yak, is to Amon-Ra on the contested catch.
Yeah, this is a guy who's been productive ever since he stepped foot on USC too. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit, so there were a lot of expectations that came with that. But caught 60 passes when he was a freshman, and then followed it up his sophomore season with a 1,000-yard season where he had 18 broken tackles. So like, he does have some Golden Tate to him where he can make the first guy miss and then do something else downfield. So yeah, I like it. I mean, you could do way worse with a 4th round pick.
Let me ask a question though, because I think a lot of people see this pick and they wonder, okay, well, what about Quintez Cephus? They're kind of similar in skill set a little bit, and they're probably fighting for the same starting job. So does the pick then become redundant, or is there something that you think Amon-Ra St. Brown brings that Quintez Cephus doesn't?
So I mean, I think he's flexible. He can play both slot and wide out. So, and look, right now on this roster, there's more than enough room for both, in my mind, St. Brown and Cephus. Like, this is not a very deep wide receiver depth chart, and a lot of these guys are on short-term contracts too. So I think you're right in that they do fill similar roles, and I'm trying to figure out a way to explain why I think the upside on Amon-Ra St. Brown is higher than Cephus without sounding like a total USC homer, and I can't do that right now.
Do you have an idea?
But I believe it.
I think Chris touched on it, and it's just that this wide receiver room is going to be competitive from Tyrell Williams to Brashad Perryman all the way down. Like, it's going to be, it's going to be feast or famine. Like if you want to step out and you want to show out and you want to earn a spot for the 2022 Detroit Lions, like go do it. I think,
earn it, yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's plenty. There are a bevy of opportunities for everybody to succeed, and to earn a longer look.
All right. Well, we've gone long there. Thank you for indulging me in that. But I think that is kind of that is the most interesting day 3 pick. We have 2 more picks to talk about. Derek Barnes, linebacker out of Purdue. Do you have any notes about him, Jeremy? Lions do need a linebacker, but this is pretty late in the draft. So,
yeah, I mean, well, first thing we got to talk about is them trading up to get him. They
Yes.
send their 5th round pick and a 2024 round pick to the Browns to get their this 4th round pick, which is right after obviously the pick of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and a 7th round pick. So I'm generally against trade ups, but in this one the Lions didn't lose a pick. They in fact kind of gained one this year, although they lose one next year. But you're swapping this year's 4th for next year's 4th, or the other way around, and you're turning a 5th into a 7th. And to me, that's not paying all that much. That's fine. My question is just the guy that they got. And I don't want to take anything away from Derek Barnes. Again, you're getting a very gritty guy, a guy who loves the game of football, a guy whose character means you're going to get the toughest version of this guy on the field every time he steps up there. But again, it's projection. It's a lot like the Levi Onwuzurike pick, in which you're hoping that the physical traits translate into a good NFL player. And so you're relying again on your coaching staff a lot, and maybe there's a little bit of hubris happening there, and maybe the confidence in your coaching staff is real. But the Lions are getting speedy at linebacker, which is the headline of this pick. They're finally getting someone with speed. The question, though, is can he drop back into coverage? Can he do some normal linebacker stuff? Because at Purdue for the first couple of years, he was an edge defender, and he's far too small to do that at this level. So I think early on you're going to see him contribute in special teams, but coverage-wise, he didn't do it at Purdue. So we don't know if he can do it. Just because he has the athletic traits to do it doesn't mean he can do it. Because, I don't know, think of a guy on the Lions linebacking core for the past few years who had all the athletic traits but couldn't drop back into coverage. Can you think of any names? Maybe 1 or 2 that pop out?
I would say a premier free agent who signed with the New York Jets,
Yeah.
according to Ian Rappaport.
Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about the 4th round. He definitely fills a need. He's going to play. He will probably play a little bit in his rookie season. I don't think he's going to be a starter. But you try to coach him up. You try to get as much as you can out of these physical traits, and you hope that he learns. He's certainly going to have the motivation to learn. And so I don't hate the pick, but it's a little more projection than I'd like. To be aggressive to trade up and get this guy seems a little bit eager. Overeager maybe to get someone who's going to take some time.
All right, now let's wrap up here. 7th round pick. As you said, the Lions got one of those in this trade, and that turns into pick 257, Jermar Jefferson, running back out of Oregon State. My only question to Jeremy is this still too high to take a running back for you?
It's not. No, I'm perfectly fine with this pick.
Jermar thought he would go sooner, and maybe, but tell me what you think on the pick.
Well, I mean, most people had a draftable grade on him, so picking him as the 3rd to last pick, sure, fine, that's fine. He's kind of in the same way that Amon-Ra St. Brown is a master of none type of guy. That's kind of how I view this pick. Jermar is a guy who a lot of people are already drawing comparisons to Theo Riddick, and I get it. There is some of that short area quickness and juke and things like that, but he doesn't have breakaway speed. He's got really good vision. I'm eager to see how he plays out. I just kind of would prefer when you're picking this late, at least get a guy with as much upside that he can play special teams. I don't know if he'll be the special teams guy. The one thing that I think it was him, forgive me if I'm mixing guys up, but I believe it was him who said, he didn't play special teams in college, but he sat in on special teams meetings at the at the request of one of his coaches because he knew that was going to be his way in at the professional level. I just don't know if he has those skills yet. So it's kind of a wait and see thing with him. But you're just taking shots in the dark at 7, and that was a position of need in terms of just filling out the roster. They only had 3.
The Lions running back room grew by 1. Analysis.
Yeah, there's maybe an outside chance. I think he challenges Kerryon Johnson, but outside of that, like it's whatever.
But, I hate to do that, but yeah. Kerryon has something to hang his hat on. He's one of the best pass protected running backs in the NFL. So, Jefferson doesn't have that yet. Jefferson has to come in and really, he has to make the team. I wouldn't say that he's a lock to make the team at all.
Yeah, I agree. 2 quick undrafted free agent names I want to give to you guys here real quick. I know Jeremy doesn't want to even look at these right now, but these were 2. I know Ryan from some of the mock drafts we were doing. I know Sage Surratt kept coming up, wide receiver out of Wake Forest. I think I saw Lions fans very excited about that because I think Surratt had a very draftable. A lot of people were mocking him with a very draftable grade. So, and I know he had 1,000-yard receiving season as a sophomore. It'll be he opted out last year, so it'll be interesting to see what he can maybe do. Again, it's a deep wide receiver room. We'll just have to see what happens there.
Go ahead. I was going to say my only notes on the UDFA class is noting what positions they got, because they got a couple running backs who are going to compete with now Jamar Jefferson for that RB4 spot, and they got 3 wide receivers. Sage Surratt is definitely going to be in competition for a roster spot, but I think Javon McKinley out of Notre Dame, a guy who reportedly got 100,000 guaranteed, like that's what you look for in this UDFA classes. You look for where the money went, the guaranteed money went, and $100,000 guaranteed for Javon McKinley out of Notre Dame tells you that is a guy that they see could definitely make this roster.
Jeremy, you posed the question about Amon-Ra St. Brown and whether or not it's a redundant pick with Quintez Cephas on the roster. Sage Surratt is Quintez Cephas. Like, he's a big slot option, ran a 4.69 40. He is Quintez Cephas essentially at the next level. So that's the mode of competition I see. Like, if Sage Surratt wants to make the roster, he needs to outperform Quintez Cephas.
Other than that, they got a couple of linemen. I think they picked up, who is a Tommy Kramer, guard out of Notre Dame as well. I think they picked up. Did they pick up? No, they didn't pick up another lineman, but I think they picked up a tight end.
They got a center, Drake Jackson.
Drake Jackson, and then Brock Wright, tight end out of Notre Dame. So they got some depth at those positions. The only other note I would say is D'Angelo Amos, safety out of Virginia. Before he transferred to Virginia, he played at James Madison. He returned 5 punts for a touchdown. So maybe if he plays well in training camp, he can maybe be an outside look to make the roster for special teams play. I think the team needs some special teams play, Jeremy, especially now that they don't have Jamal Agnew. So we'll see.
Yeah, if he's in the kick punt returner game, then yeah, I think he has an outside chance to make the roster. But the Lions actually do, in terms of safeties, the one thing they do have that safety are guys that can play special teams. And
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you probably have to find a different path to the roster if you're just planning on being a gunner or punt coverage, that sort of thing. But you guys want to talk about where the roster is now, really quick before we get out of here, and maybe some things get done.
Yeah, final thoughts. I want to turn over to Ryan first because Ryan had a great tweet thread, and I always like when I can turn tweet threads into podcast content. So, Ryan, can I just give the floor to you for a couple minutes?
Yeah, for sure. Do you want me to start at the top of my tweet thread? I'm just going to read it word for word.
Are you going to read it word for word? You can adapt it for the spoken word. You don't need to do that.
I'll adapt it. But I think, observing Lions Twitter during the draft was, for lack of a better term, it was a hellscape in terms of just trying to wade through all the minutia and trying to just get the content that I really wanted. I really should work on just working on getting a beat reporters tab. But anyways, it's difficult to follow the draft when you're on a bus ride home from North Branch track and field meet at 8:00 at night. But all that withstanding, a lot of people just complaining about the direction of the draft. And two things I want to say to that point. One is that if you're in year one of a rebuild and this is the first offseason and you're worried or you're concerned that the GM isn't picking the players that you want, you should probably decide whether or not you are capable as a fan of going through a rebuild. Like, this is going to take time. Brad Holmes is not going to be able to pay for the sins of Bob Quinn and company in just one offseason. And if the free agency exhibition wasn't enough to clue you in on that, like, welcome to draft season. And it really slapped all of you in the face. So that's what I have to say about that. The second point I want to make is how can people bemoan and complain about the strategy when you literally watched Bob Quinn reach for players like Tease Tabor, reach for players like Jelani Tavai because they were schematic fits, and quite a few of you talked your asses into it, when Brad Holmes goes the complete opposite direction and says, hey, I'm going to draft athletic best player available because I'm at the beginning of a rebuild. So all of you are left scratching your heads when they take two defensive tackles because, like, I'm not a tape junkie, but, like, just read. Do a little bit of reading. Do a little bit of watching and see that, yes, Onwuzurike, like, he played nose tackle at Washington, but he doesn't project there because he's going to be a 3-tech. And that's why they drafted a nose tackle, because they need both of those kinds of players. And also, where were you when they got rid of Danny Shelton? Like, the Lions, you're going to go into the season and say, hey, we're cool with our nose tackle just being John Penei, a guy that wasn't drafted by this regime. So understand that, like, there's a changing of the guard, and rebuilds don't happen overnight. And if you were interested in the Lions drafting for need, you are really just interested in them, repeating the same sins that they've done in the past. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of you're right in that, like, this is going to take a minute. And I don't think fans are ready for that right now. I think fans were expecting to compete, like, maybe right away. This is not when Bob Quinn came in, when Patricia came in, it was to go to the next level. This is to clean up a massive mess that has been left, where your quarterback has left. Calvin Johnson pieced out a while ago. You've lost whatever vaunted defense. It's been a minute since this team's good. I don't know how you look at the last few years and be like, yeah, this is just, a couple pieces away. This team's going to be really and that was something I was getting from a lot of draft guys too, is like, we're really understating how bad this Lions roster is right now. It needs all the fresh blood it can get. And
well, from a national perspective too, real quick, Chris, is that everybody looks at the Lions roster and they just go, it's a wasteland. Like, there's just a dearth. There's a dearth of talent. Like the Lions just don't have any talented players. So what did Brad Holmes do? He went out and he drafted the best players available at the spot that he was picking. Like, he went out to go get talent because this team has very limited amount of it.
No, I agree with that. Like, it's a term I want to use from a national guy when I was stumping for the Lions during last season. He said, you're kind of too close to the grass, Chris. You're looking at only your roster, and, like, you don't realize compared to everyone else, it's not good at all. And I think maybe some fans are still too close to the grass and see their guys and see the upside on their guys and realize that upside probably isn't being shared by a lot of other people. The only other thing I want to add, and this is kind of the rant against Lions Twitter too, is, like, I can't understand. Again, I mentioned before, I can't understand the sudden, massive, overwhelming love for Justin Fields that is now pouring out, and that the Lions have made a terrible decision to pass up on Justin Fields. And again, I think a lot of that is because the Bears came up and got him. And I think Lions fans are so arrested that they're terrified about seeing Justin Fields 2 Sundays every year. Look, maybe Justin Fields turns into a good guy, but there's going to be more quarterbacks coming in these classes. It's not going to be a wasteland after that. The project, as Ryan keeps pointing out, is going to take a while. And I mean, let's be honest, I feel like Justin Fields is getting the benefit of an incredibly good pro day and which turned into a lot of recency bias, that people saw that explosive pro day and lost their minds for it. And the fact that the 49ers, with their pick of quarterbacks right there, took Trey Lance over Justin Fields, that Brad Holmes had Trey Lance but wouldn't go for Justin Fields, that the Denver Broncos, who insanely need a quarterback, took Patrick Surtain rather than Justin Fields. Like that, I'm not saying that he's a bad guy by any means, but that's telling you that he's maybe not the can't miss quarterback that you think he is. If someone that is so desperate as the Denver Broncos are passing up on him, like, I don't know, man. I find it just, it's frustrating because, again, we've seen how this team does with a bad offensive line. Stafford has been sacked when he was here, was sacked so many damn times, that the fact is you have one of the best offensive tackle prospects in your lap, one of the best prospects for a few years in your lap. Regardless who the quarterback is, that's going to pay dividends.
The only point I have to add to all this discussion, and it's kind of this narrative that I think is a little bit false about this Lions draft class, is that, like, they went in wanting to get the Lions shored up. They went in thinking we gotta go in here and we gotta fix the defensive line. That's how you build a team, is through the trenches. I don't think that was necessarily the plan. Yes, that's how it worked out, but no, I think Brad Holmes was sticking to his board the entire way. And I mean,
where the best value was.
The best value at each pick. And that's what he said at the end of day one. He said, listen, if we go into day two and the best player available is an offensive lineman, we're going to take an offensive lineman. Building blocks of this team before the draft. You had maybe a handful. Romeo Okwara, now you got me doing it. Taylor Decker. Frank Ragnow. Probably Jonah Jackson. Am I done? Hawkinson and Okuda, maybe? And the Lions didn't draft anyone at those positions, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm missing somebody. And so that means they drafted for need, because everything was a freaking need. And so it wasn't this plan of we got to build from the inside out. It was, this is where the best players are, and we need players, period. Yeah. And in the meantime, they got guys that were gritty, guys that are going to be absolute character fits, that are going to love the head coach, which, I mean, that doesn't hurt. Imagine that, getting players that are going to like your head coach.
Also, guys who just seem fun to root for, man. Like how Sewell, you were talking about how you were infected by Sewell's attitude on the press conference with him, and Onwuzurike is just dropping F-bombs nonstop. Like, all these guys seem like really cool guys to root for as fans, if nothing else. But they also seem to all be really good players too.
Yeah. And Chad is pointing out that I missed DeAndre Swift too. Yes, DeAndre Swift, centerpiece for 3 or 4 years, because running backs don't last that long.
Well, I was going to say, hold on. How many foundational running backs are there in the NFL?
Right.
Like,
not many.
I mean,
Derrick Henry, and then
well, I mean, like Saquon Barkley got hurt. Christian McCaffrey got hurt. I mean, you're talking about guys who missed significant time. Like, if you're counting on a running back to save your season, yikes.
Yeah. I don't want to give it a grade, because I feel like for any class, we're kind of do recency on it. Like, I agree it's a good class. You want to see them pan out, but I'm also allowed to sit here and say that this looked pretty damn good, Jeremy.
Listen, I'm happy with it. I'm happy that Brad Holmes stuck to his guns there. There might be some individuals that I disagree on, but time will tell, and I'm certainly humble enough to know that I'm wrong more often than not when it comes to draft, as is pretty much everybody. I mean, when we're talking about 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks, the hit rate isn't great. So, you know, whose hit rate is good in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round? Brad Holmes.
Hey,
yeah, this was via Brad Holmes.
But this was a class where Brad Holmes got to show off his scouting chops for sure.
Yeah, and we'll see how
with some of the value he was getting, because again, like a guy like Alan McNeil, and all of a sudden, I've got a former pro Brett Whitefield and Kent in my ear saying this was a 1st round grade on this guy. Like, fantastic.
Value.
Value. Money.
This was the Little Caesars of drafts.
Please don't
that does not sound like a compliment.
I
I immediately take it back.
No. All right, take it back and say that this was Brad Holmes playing Supermarket Sweep, and he went straight for the hams.
There you go. That's better.
Literally.
The ham draft. I think that might be the title of this podcast. Thank you guys, everyone who's been watching Pride of Detroit over the past week. I'm happy too, just as a personal note, that I don't know. I feel very up this week, and I don't have to worry about certain things that I've expressed worries about before. And it's I don't know. When that happened, I felt lighter about this, and it's great, man. Lions didn't do a bad. Lions did good things here.
The Lions didn't do a bad. That's my headline for tomorrow. For Monday morning, my Monday morning column. The Lions didn't do bad.
The Lions didn't blow it. Thank you, guys. This has been an amazing draft season. We have a lot planned for the offseason. Jeremy and I have been talking about guests to talk about that will maybe hopefully continue to talk you up on Penei Sewell. We're going to probably have some fun podcasts on the off season. Mailbag stuff is going to come back. I'm going to keep doing these haikus, and the long slog to training camp now is on, Jeremy.
Hey, schedule release in a week and a half. That's exciting.
It is. And I really want to know when Lions Rams is, because I am going to go to that game in person. I have not been to an NFL game since the Thanksgiving game where the Lions steamrolled the Eagles and Mark Sanchez. And I think that was, Ryan, was that 2015?
Might have been. Sounds about right. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember I went with Alex and Jerry, and somehow all three of us sat in very different sections, and all three of us had fights with Eagles fans. So
sounds par for the course.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, guys. Well, we're out of here. Again, one more time, the outpouring for everything we've been doing at Pride of Detroit, especially on PODcast and on the Twitch stream and YouTube stream, has been amazing. You guys kick so much ass, and we're going to keep kicking ass into the off season. This is one of the big milestones in our yearly calendar for POD, and great success, Jeremy.
It's about to get turned. Yeah. That's all I can say.
We will see you Starside. And we're out. We went long on the last segment, so I can even that takes some of the edge off of having to chop up the first. So
my dinner got here 40 minutes ago. Can I go?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, go and eat, man. Go and eat. Right. We'll me and Jeremy will spend a little time here. Thanks,
Everyone
Ryan.
Say bye to Ryan.
See you guys. Bye.
He didn't even finish talking before he got out.
Someone asked if I'm going gray. The answer is yes, and it's your fault, chat, for stressing me out. See that? It's gray and little grays.
That's
on the
easy
side.
to fix, though. That's easy to fix compared to my problem.
All in salt and pepper.
Hiding.
I'm all about the salt
What's
and
that?
pepper. I'm all about the salt and pepper look.
Salt and pepper. Please don't do that too much. My dad is now at that age where he thought like having stark white hair is cool. So
I'm never gonna dye my hair. I am the most low maintenance person in the world. I'm never gonna
just
dye
a
my
little bit of boss.
Nah.
Okay.
Too cool.
Jeremy need to get the stash back. 183 days until Movember, everyone.
I can put this guy back. Actually, I took the adhesive.
You just put that in your mouth.
There we go. Sorry. Never gonna dye your hair. Okay, well, I'll dye this hair occasionally. I won't dye this hair. How many subs? Oh boy, I don't like comments that just start with that.
Here's the deal. If I shave my head right now, I don't know what's going to all grow back. I'm getting the problem with my uncles. I am hiding it as best I can, but I try not to dip my head down too much. And I also don't want to be that guy who has a shaved head and a goatee. So, and I don't want to get rid of this thing. I enjoy this thing. I've had this thing since I was like 18.
I would consider shaving my head because my hair grows back pretty quickly, but I've never even really considered what it would look like. And
how many subs just to shave the goatee? 2,000. And all that money has to come to me.
Just be a hat
via
guy.
Jeremy.
Jeremy makes sacrifices. Your turn. No. You don't
just be a hat guy. I've tried to be a hat guy. It just doesn't look good. Yeah.
Someone asked if my upper lip is dyed blue at all. It's not, surprisingly. I did get a little bit. I don't know if you can still see it on my lower lip. No, I think it's
Get no decaf. 2,000 subs. Yeah, man. Hey, if I hit, I'm going to be streaming this week here, starting on Monday, over at No Decaf, just playing lead games. And if somehow I'm working to affiliate, once I get to affiliate, if you guys throw me a shitload of subs, maybe I'll consider that. Maybe the money will finally soothe over that ache of losing a 20-year project. Chris, I don't know your backstory. How did you live in Vancouver and now LA and you torture yourself by being a Lions fan with the rest of us? So I was born in North Carolina, but I grew up in Toledo. And Toledo is a 50-50 split between Detroit sports and Cleveland sports. You get Browns on CBS, Lions on Fox. Had a lot of Lions fans when I was in high school. I did not like football when I was in high school that much. I was more of a basketball guy. I was much more of a basketball guy, but I loved the Pistons. Yes, I love the Mud Hens and I love the Tigers. But I didn't really have a football team. Most of my cousins on my mother's side were Steelers fans. And one of my cousins on my father's side were Cowboys. But I was away from both of them. And because I was into Tigers and Pistons when I started to really get into pro sports, I was like, I might as well just I want to be one city. I'll do Lions. That might have been a mistake.
Subs for a tattoo? Absolutely not. I will.
Oh,
you guys will
no, that's permanent. That's permanent.
Yeah. No,
that's permanent. No.
Wiggles asked breakout player for 2021. I like that question. That's an interesting one. So, who is a guy? I mean, Jeff Okudah is probably the first name to jump out at me. I think he's going to benefit from a better defensive line. I think he's going to benefit from better coaching. I'm hoping. Admittedly, that's a lot of hope and not a lot of evidence. But what evidence do you have of anyone breaking out at this point if they haven't broken out before? So there's a little bit of hope there. I think a lot of my answers are going to be surrounded around the secondary because obviously, the Lions have focused their coaching efforts on the secondary. Swift is a pretty good answer. I almost want to say that Swift broke out last year in the second half of the season, but we could literally see. I just stopped myself from saying something.
You paused. What are you about to say?
And I'm gonna say it anyways. I'm gonna restart myself and I'm gonna say it. Swift could be a top 10 running back this year.
Oh wow.
I don't think Jared Davis is going to be a breakout player this year. No. Although maybe with the Giants, I don't know.
Sorry.
Should I have stopped myself from saying that? Jeremy jinxed it.
Oh my God. The jersey. So I do want to get a Sewell jersey. I do really want to get a Sewell jersey. Just that showing you my commitment.
That reminds me, we're selling Sewell t-shirts. I mentioned it on the live broadcast on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Sewell Strong t-shirt that we're selling, and I meant to put it up on the site this weekend, but there was some other stuff going on with the Lions this weekend that may have sidetracked me. I don't know if you guys heard there was like a day 3 of the draft and then a bunch of UDFA stuff. So
yeah, just small stuff, you know.
Small stuff like
By the way, I am oddly, you keep putting up the picture of Sewell at the press conference, and I'm oddly getting turned on to the draft hats, which I thought were awful.
I thought they were fine.
I didn't like that. I thought they were a little plain, but seeing Sewell rocking that thing, he looks really sharp with that hat, with the Detroit Lions draft hat.
That right there is the Sewell Strong shirt that we'll be selling, that we are selling, I should say. I believe he wore something that said Sewell Strong, so that's like a thing. It's like a thing. And
yeah.
Images. I'm trying to see if I can see him wearing something with it. But anyways, we're selling those shirts. I can put the link in here if you guys want the referral link that would give us a little bit of kickback. #ad, just so you know. But it's a way to support it's a lot cheaper than a jersey. If you're and let's say maybe you're You're someone that has a jersey curse.
I think jersey prices are going up. Like, I think one of my friends was looking for a Rams jersey, and it's like they've gone up.
His family has worn that for years. Haven't seen him wear it. There you go. So yeah, it's a family thing. Pretty cool. I like it.
That's a big family.
And if you didn't notice, I don't know if you can notice it because the screen's a little bit small. That G is a flexing muscle.
Mm-hmm. We didn't talk enough about Mario Cristobal. We didn't talk enough about how much Mario Cristobal praised Sewell too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
part of that is that college coaches love it when their guys go in the top 10 because it's great recruiting material.
Yeah.
Especially to hype him up, but he had a lot of very kind things to say. About Sewell.
And I mean, you never know how honest a person like that is being, especially when they're meeting with the media and they know every single word.
Again, got to be prudent.
Is going. I used to
cover. Yeah, I used to cover college. Used to cover college football before I came to Pride Detroit. These coaches always be prudent, but it feels out of Cristobal, and knowing the energy he brings to Oregon, it felt a little more sincere than just a guy like James Franklin who's always trying to sell. So
yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Like you go through enough of these, and oddly enough, I don't remember the Lions ever doing this, setting up an interview with the first round picks head coach in college. Which kudos to the Lions for getting that set up for the media. That was awesome. But you learn certain tells, or you get a feel whether someone's being sincere or not. And I certainly got the feeling that he was being completely sincere. That this dude loved him more than just as a player. He loved him as a person. And when he said specifically, and this is as close to verbatim as I can get without looking it up, he said, Penei Sewell is a generational talent. I have literally never seen someone like him go through these ranks. And it's also worth noting that Cristobal was an offensive lineman. He was an offensive line coach.
Yeah.
He knows how the position is played. This isn't just like some defensive head coach saying, yeah, I like this guy because he knocked the other guy down. He good. No, he knows the nuances of the game. He knows what it takes in terms of a mentality to play the offensive line position, and he thinks Penei Sewell has literally all of the traits that he needs to succeed and be a potential, I'm not saying he will be an all-pro or he will be a Pro Bowler, but he has that potential in terms of the skills that he has, in terms of the athleticism he has, and in terms of the grit and mentality he has. And I'm fired up about him. I'm super fired up about him.
Yeah, Sewell said something like he felt it was like a family, not just a business. Yeah, no, Pac-12 here.
No,
Oregon.
I believe he said that about the Lions.
He said that about the Lions. Yeah, okay, I was going to say Oregon though is a very tight squad, but yes, yeah, like it is. I don't know, man. Like I know fans will kind of be a little skeptical and say, okay, that has to translate into wins on the field, but man, it feels better when everyone's kind of just treating each other with that kind of respect. And it's that term we got from Jamal Williams, positive competition. Right.
And I mean, that's national analysts have called it like the Lions got a bunch of kneecap biters and yeah. And I think the reason they say that
soundbite.
And the reason they say that is their playing style. But I think beyond that, them just as people are going to be such a good culture fit. And Penei Sewell is the prime example of it. And it goes back to that quote where he said, like, he landed in Detroit. He said, I thought the NFL was just going to be all about business, all about, putting in the work and just, you say it a lot, Chris, and I'm with you. Like, sometimes the NFL takes itself too damn seriously, whereas college is fun and they groom these people not just as football players, but as young men. The NFL has lost that a lot, but I think the Lions are trying to get that back. And
I think a lot of that again,
players that are going to appreciate that.
And again, I think a lot of that starts again. I keep bringing this up, and I know I'm trying not to essentialize too much, but you look at who the coaching staff is, right? All guys who played in the NFL, not just guys who came for a cup of coffees in the NFL. Multiple year starters. Like there was a Cowboys season ticket ad with Dan Campbell in it, tackling a horse. Aaron Glenn is probably, I don't know if he's Hall of Fame, but he was Hall of Very Good, if nothing else.
He's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, he's a Pro Bowler. Like, Anthony Lynn, running back in the 90s. Who else am I missing here?
Deuce Staley.
Deuce bleeping Staley. Like you got a bunch of guys who like, and you look at the resumes of some guys who we know as like lifer coaches in the NFL, where they start, they maybe play at like Division II or FCS, but then they don't get drafted in the NFL, or they get cut as like a practice squad guy, but then they immediately move over to like, quality assistant, quality control management, and then start to work their way up through years and years and years of coaches. And that is commendable. That is hard work to do all that work as coach, but it also separates you from the locker room a little bit too much sometimes. And I think having that refreshing attitude of guys who have played the game and understands what this goes through in the NFL helps that mentality shift. Yeah. It does, because it's not just because coaches are always coaching for their jobs. Coaches are always worried about trying to keep their jobs at the end of the day. And for these guys like Dan Campbell, I'm not saying that's probably not on his mind. He probably knows that he's got to turn this around within time. But he also understands that the game of football is nothing without emotion. And without joy, it can be pretty dark emotion. So like, I think he brings that joy and that love of playing the game to all of this. Yeah,
and one quick thing I want to say before we get to another question or two from Chet, because I see we got a list cast request.
I saw another list cast.
I saw a video, and I can't remember the player or the team, but and I see something like this happen every year. The draft pick will come into their new team, and the team will have either a video or they'll actually have the player come in. It's a legend. It's like, they'll go to the Steelers and Terry Bradshaw will send them a message and say like, hey man, you're part of the Steelers now, and this is a legendary team, and now you're a part of it, and I'm so excited that you're here for us. And the players are like, oh wow, that's really cool. The Lions have that in the building every single day. They have an NFL legend that will be with you every single day of the year. And they don't have just one of them. They don't just have two of them. They have multiple. 4, 5, 6. And I get it. Like these guys are too young to know who Deuce Staley is. They're too young to know who Antoine Randall L is. They won't appreciate them like some.
They might remember Aaron Glenn. They might remember Aaron Glenn.
No chance. Some of these guys were born after Aaron Glenn played. Aaron Glenn played in the 90s. Penei Sewell was born in 2000.
He quit. I thought he retired in like 2009 or something.
Yeah, but Penei Sewell was born in 2000. He wasn't watching Aaron Glenn play when he was 9 years old.
He was watching Calvin Johnson. Right. I don't know how early it was on Calvin Johnson, but that's why Sewell, by the way, is a Lions fan, because he liked Calvin Johnson.
Right. But you a lot of times you see it in these videos. They're like, oh, do you know who Derek Johnson is if it was the Chiefs? And be like, oh yeah, I think didn't he used to play? Like they know of him, but they don't know. Yeah. But the overall point is that the Lions have NFL legends. Maybe legends is a little bit of a stretch with some of these
guys. Of very good, I would say, or at least just guys who have done they're veterans. They've done this before, man.
Guys with pedigree that know the work that it takes day in and day out. They know the mental fortitude that they have to have. They not that they're going to coddle.
They know the toll a season takes on you too.
And it's not that they're going to coddle some of these guys. It's just that they know how to push buttons and when to back off. And that's not an easy thing to learn as a leader. And the Lions got a bunch of guys like that. Anyways.
Yeah, like look, it looks great on paper. That's just what it is, and we'll see. I mean, maybe if they start getting losses, fans will sour on it, but for right now, it's at least fun. You know.
I still the alert box off. My
okay. Conrad wants a list cast, by the way, on biggest surprises of the draft for you guys that happened / the Lions did. So I would say let's make it not just the Lions for the entire draft. What do you think? Biggest surprises?
That's going to be very hard for me because outside of the first round, I couldn't tell you where anyone went.
Well, just focus on the first round then.
You guys have to realize that I am so tunnel visioned in this draft because all of Thursday night it was Penei Sewell. I think I jumped back on the live stream when we were in our 20s and I was desperately trying to catch up and I did, but right after I jump off, guess what I'm writing about? Penei Sewell. So that stuff, that shit goes in one ear. I maybe process it for 10 minutes and then goes right out the other door. I mean, the Eagles thing was funny. Where the Eagles got pissed.
And I mean, one of the shows I do is with a Philadelphia guy who's not happy with Howie Roseman. So okay, I enjoy the entire NFL, and I do have to keep up on national just because of my other thing. I'll tell you, I was surprised. I don't know if I'd put it as a high shock of Tutu Atwell going to the Rams. He's so small. I kind of feel a little shocked at that. So I'll put that there. I think JOK lasting as long as he did is still pretty shocking. For a guy who had like a mid first round grade to be waiting all the way until when did he get picked, Jeremy? It was like
early 30s, mid 40s. I don't know, somewhere between. The
hold up. Second 20th pick in the second round. I don't have the actual.
That's 52.
52. Yeah. Alex Leatherwood to the Raiders felt like a very weird pick.
Yeah, I saw people. I know. I mean, I think people get too caught up sometimes in first round. Like, he went in the first round. Most people expected him to go in the first round. Whether it was at 17 or 18 or wherever the Raiders were, or 30, is it that big of a difference? Like, I don't know. They just had the guy ranked higher on the boards than the media did. Like that. I think we like to jump on teams for that and whatever. The Raiders don't have a great. I guess it's fair because they went and reached on Cleveland Farrell in the top 10 a couple of years ago, and that one didn't seem to.
Well, it's also their off season. They spent a lot of time just like guys who keep leaving on that offensive line, so it kind of felt like this is kind of trying to fix a wound that they've had for a little bit, and. I don't know. Talking with some Raiders people, they're not happy with the pick. I'll just say that.
That's fair.
But I think that's just more overall general frustration with Gruden and Mayock to begin with.
But I just think sometimes the only reason we get worked up over reaches in the first round is because media has told them that that's a reach. Media has told them, not NFL people, not scouts. I've seen plenty of quotes today that said like, "Oh yeah, no, he was going to go in the first round. That wasn't that big."
Yeah, and I know there was like a couple of picks. Like we were even giggling about it on stream about Green Bay picking Eric Stokes because I know the draft guys we talked to say that's like a third round grade on him. What are they doing? But I don't really see people banging the Packers too much for that. Maybe that's just the Aaron Rodgers news overshadowing it. Yeah. And I know that Peyton Turner for Houston for New Orleans is a bit of a head scratcher, but maybe I'm listening to too many Falcons fans who just want to bash the Saints, which is probably true. The other big surprise I would say is that run we had in the middle of the second round on quarterbacks. Who was it? We had Trask. How'd it go? It was Trask.
Someone at the end of the first, right?
It was
the Bucs.
Trask.
The Bucs took
Trask. The Bucs took Trask. And then I think the Vikings took Mond. And then
Texans
took Davis Mills. Yeah, I found that shocking that all of a sudden we had a three back-to-back on quarterbacks in the third round in the second round when we knew that these guys weren't really that what.
Second and third. It was the end of the second.
Yeah, it was. Right. Yeah, you're right. But that we had three quarterbacks suddenly run that quickly when we knew that second level just wasn't that good. I think those guys lasted longer. I mean, I get it for Tampa Bay that it's probably I kind of disagree on the pick, but I get it. You want a guy who can sit on the pine for a couple of years while Tom Brady finishes up his career. I think I get it for Minnesota too, because I don't know how much more you're going to get out of Kirk Cousins, but that one's going to bring in some scub right away because maybe I think Mond will be pressured into some, probably Minnesota is less secure with Cousins than we think. There might be some controversy within a year or two. And then Houston, I mean, look, I don't know what's going to happen to I think Watson's not going to play this year. I think with the allegations, the commissioner, given his past on what he's done to players with far less allegations, he has to suspend Watson for the entire year. He has to put him on the exempt list for the entire year. And that'll maybe save the Texans, the humiliation of him threatening to quit too. So, but then you're going to need a quarterback to fill in that. So that's Mills.
I would say my biggest shock from the Lions' point of view is simply that they didn't trade down. They didn't get any extra picks. You know, they got one extra selection this year, but at the cost of a 2022 fourth. You know, we all, again, this is just kind of a result of pre-draft season, which I absolutely abhor. We all, with our mock draft machines, tried to fix all of the Lions' problems in one draft.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
So the only way to do that is to trade down. And even doing that, there's a risk of losing your guys. And that's clearly why the Lions didn't trade down. And they considered it. You know, in Burkett's article today, he said they had conversations of trading down into the 20s. They had another conversation in which they sent an offer, a light offer, in which a team thought it was too much. So they considered it, but in the end, they decided getting guys that they were sure on was more important than tallying picks. And I mean, I don't love that. I don't hate it either, but as someone who is team trade down, I think sometimes you can get a little bit too much in your own head, a little too confident in your own abilities when the draft proves time and time again that there is no magic formula to it. There isn't a GM out there that is impermeable, that has never missed on a guy. So I kind of wish they would have traded down and accumulated some more picks in the top 100 if they could have. But I'm willing to wait this out, and maybe, I mean, Brad Holmes has a fantastic scouting acumen. That's the one thing. Like, his reputation around the league is so fantastic as a scouter, as a talent evaluator, that I'm going to sit this one out and say, listen, I may have wanted you to trade down, and I may criticize you a little bit for believing your own abilities in a little bit, but I'm also going to take a step back and just wait and see first.
Yeah. Sorry. Let me catch up on there. There was one saying Kyle Sleeps suspending him talking about Deshaun Watson again would make sense, but QBs are different, man. But the Watson situation is apocalyptic. Like, it's buried a little bit, but
it'll come back.
How many allegations do we have, Jeremy? Double digits? Like, that's really, it's really bad. It's really bad. I guess I should ask you, like, we didn't get to talk on it. I think we'll save it for the next podcast. What the hell do you think is going to happen with Aaron Rodgers?
It's a good question. I think they'll eventually smooth it over. The fact that Aaron Rodgers hasn't publicly said anything is a little bit interesting to me. I mean, he obviously leaked all this information on the draft, either in the hopes of getting traded at the draft, you know, maybe speeding things along.
Yeah, there was that
the
rumor
49ers
before.
or the Broncos that seemed to be the two teams that were most likely at the time. Or he just wanted, you know, he knew that would just be a lot of attention and kind of put the pressure on the Packers. But I don't know. It's just so weird to me that this is following the exact same formula as it did for Brett Favre. That, like, Brett Favre threatened to quit or retire and demanded to get a trade. And eventually he did get it, but not before. I think he made some false threats before. Maybe this is just my Lions fatalism. It's like, Aaron Rodgers is never going to leave. We're always going to have to deal with him. But I just, it does feel like both sides have their heels dug in pretty hard. And I don't know, when that happens, I can't say there's a typical result. Sometimes the player gives in, sometimes the team gives in. And so it does kind of feel like a 50-50 proposition right now, but in the end, my I guess it is my Lions fatalism says I think he stays.
Yeah. I think it's different this time because I've seen it every offseason with him lately where he kind of bitches and moans to the when he's on like Pat McAfee or whatever, and we worry about it for all of 5 seconds. This is different. I genuinely feel this feels very different with these guys now because apparently he hates everyone in that front office. He didn't have a say. Like, people are honed in a lot on Jordan Love as like, oh, he's just mad they drafted his replacement. It's more than that. He didn't get a say in Matt LaFleur. And honestly, what I think it comes down to is, and I hate to make it about one play, but Jeremy, they did not go for it on fourth down. They did not trust him with that ball in the NFC Championship. And they got to the NFC Championship.
But I mean, who knows what reports are
that
true
might just
or
be
not.
a straw that breaks the camel's back.
It's
right?
more that.
I guess what I'm saying is like, yeah,
it's the Jordan Love pick. Like that's where things went wrong. That's where he lost complete
it started,
trust
but
in Gutekunst. And I mean, he's still feeling today. There was a report out there that the Packers in 2020 went to him and said, "Hey, we'll trade you after the season."
Mm.
And then he went out and had an MVP season. They're like, actually, never mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, that's just a report. Not sure if it's true or not. There was a report out there that he was almost a done deal to the Broncos, and that turned out to be BS. So believe what you will. But, I mean, this all stems from the Jordan Love pick. It stems from – and it's not just the fact that they took him. It's the fact that they didn't tell him that they were going to do it. And this all goes back to, like, the same arguments we have about Calvin Johnson is just like, do you treat this like a business or do you treat this like a family? And the answer should be both. But a lot of people think you treat this like a business. Aaron Rodgers needs to stop being such a whiny little bastard. The team's doing fine. It doesn't matter that they're not drafting wide receivers. You're still leading the number one offense. And then there's the other.
Which I've seen.
There are other people that say, like, hey, listen, when you make a drastic move like that, giving your quarterback just even a little heads up saying, listen, if Jordan Love is there at a certain spot, we think he's good enough where we can't pass. And it's not anything against you. We're just looking at the long-term vision of this team. We know you're getting up there in age. We still like what you're doing. Is that going to make him perfectly happy? Of course not. Is it going to make him understand at least a little more and not feel completely betrayed or feel like he doesn't have a hand in this franchise at all? It'll help a little bit there.
Yeah, look, I think it started with Love, but I think all things like going through bad jobs myself, something bad happens and you start to think about quitting, and then it kind of slowly over time until you hit that point where the camel straw is broken. Yeah, I'm starting to see people are wondering guys, I don't know who that is, by the way. I don't know who that is. I think it's mirrored this way. It's pointing this way.
Oh, me?
What?
Oh, me.
Yeah. Some people in chat, Zucifer is like, is asking if this is a Jeremy stunt double. Ruby is not sure.
No, she's happy.
Actually, Miss Ruby's, she's happy. She's happy.
She's been begging for me to shave it for months.
Last thing I'll say on Aaron Rodgers before we play some more grab ass, but I will say this. He is more than capable of sitting out a year. Not just with the Jeopardy thing that people devoted to. Like, he talks well. He has connections with not just Pat McAfee, but the Dan Le Batard show, which has gotten a ton of money now and is starting up their own podcasting and a pretty big empire there.
I mean, every time he's a weekly guest on Pat McAfee, and it does gangbusters every time.
It does gangbusters. And guess what? ESPN, Fox, CBS, any of those networks will back up the Brinks truck to have him in their studio show on Sunday mornings. He can and he is, from all accounts, what people say, he is a petty man. He doesn't talk to his own family because of a divide, which is kind of sad. And I hope that, that's kind of sad to hear as someone who's gone through various things with my own family, that you never want to see that. But that's just to illustrate where he can hold a grudge. And the former part was to illustrate that he can more than keep himself busy by taking a year off from football.
Really quick, LJ, thank you for gifting us up to Mrs. Ruby, who then just says, Pat McAfee was our punter. Yes, that is true.
Yes.
Mrs. Ruby is from Indiana. Not the biggest sports fan, but she's becoming a sports fan. I'm slowly making it
her.
Yeah, like I make, even sometimes when I'm not there, like I'll come in and they were already talking about sports. I'm like, did I do this to you? I feel like I did a little bit.
You that?
Yeah, I do that. Do you guys think Jamar Jefferson poses any threat to take Kerryon Johnson's spot on the roster? We talked about this a little bit. I don't think so. I would be very, very surprised. I like Jamar Johnson as... I guess my concern with him is that I don't know if he has the physical traits to make it in this league. He certainly doesn't have the breakaway speed, which is not something that you necessarily need. It's more about the short area quickness, and he's got a little bit of that. But I don't know. He doesn't have the pass blocking right away. He would have to just do something amazing in the preseason or in training camp, and I don't really see it.
Yeah, I think he's going up against a body of work with Kerryon, and as we said, Kerryon is a really good blocker.
Yep. And Deuce Staley likes that. Deuce Staley said
he does. He's talked about it before.
It's essential for the position.
Yeah.
And no one does it better than him. According to Kyle Kasky, best pass blocking running back he has ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not as high as him, obviously, as I am on Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I know we'll quibble on Amon-Ra, but I think he is going to turn into a sleeper hit. I don't know. This was a good class for the this was a lot of Pac-12 guys for the Lions. We had a Washington guy, an Oregon guy, Oregon State, and SC. So.
I almost wanted to ask Brad Holmes that too, and maybe I should have. He lived on the West Coast. He was in LA his entire time, and a lot of the scouting he did happened before he came to Detroit. You're scouting the entire year as a director of college, college scout. What is it? College, whatever. You're doing
college scouting.
I mean, he was scouting a lot of these, and some of the guys that they drafted opted out. So he has to rely on his scouting from years ago. And I'm wondering if just his physical location on the West Coast maybe influenced some of his. Oh, he did do. That's right. He did live in Atlanta. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I mean, he took a lot of ACC. He took some ACC guys too with Syracuse and with Alan McNeil. Ifeatu, that's Syracuse, that's NC State, that's your ACC right there. And he took a Purdue kid, but I think maybe for us as being Detroit guys, maybe we're dispositioned towards Big Ten, and obviously SEC gets a lot of the pub. And look, Pac-12, I hate to say it, but everyone kind of in college puts down the Pac-12, that it's not a good conference. Why would you stay up to watch this? That they play bad football. But I mean, they haven't had good success. I'll give them that. Yeah, but I guess my point is there are some damn good athletes out in the West Coast, and I think sometimes our own college biases sometimes get in the way of scouting guys. And I mean, granted, I'm saying this while in defense of Amon-Ra St. Brown, while I am a massive SC guy.
It's a shame you're just not as big on Notre Dame guys, because I feel like the Lions are kind of starting to load up on Notre Dame guys as well.
Especially in the undrafted. Yeah, among the undrafted. They took 3 of them. Yeah.
Plus got the
there was a lot of Notre Dame. Well, I mean, my dad's a Notre Dame guy, and I still watch a lot of ND just because my whole family is ND. But, yeah, I mean, Notre Dame had a very good draft class. Not going to lie. That was a very good draft class for Notre Dame.
That's why you wanted JOK secretly. But he obviously trusted his scouts on the West Coast. He was comfortable with the scouts on the West Coast. Yeah, that's true. Mrs. Ruth,
yeah, hey man,
screaming the Arizona fight song. How does it go? Should we play it? Will I get DMCA'd? Arizona fight song. If I play this, Mrs. Ruby, and you aren't singing, at home.
It's bear. Yeah, you better be singing. Is it Bear Down?
Apparently. Lyrics? All right, I don't know. This is weird. I have nothing to. We'll fade it out. We won't give it a clean break. We'll give you I just guessed that end. It's very. Fight songs are very predictable.
I didn't realize Miss Ruby's a Wildcat.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Just don't mention the Sun Devils around her.
Oh no, I will not. As an SC guy, I will not mention those bastards in Tempe.
I think it's about time to wrap this up. It's been
we just hit the 2 hour 11-minute mark, so yeah.
I'm very excited on what's ahead. As Chris kind of alluded to, we're gonna try to hit experts on some of these draft picks hard in my mind, what I want to do is a lot like what we did for the coaching search and the GM search, which is basically get an expert on every single draft pick and talk to them for a half hour. That would be my ideal scenario. I'm not going to promise that that's going to happen, but that's what my goal is. And Scum Devils. Yeah, that's a plan. And then also, literally right after we're done with this stream, I'm going to apply for partnership on Twitch because we just finished an amazing week.
We've kicked so much ass.
Really an amazing month. We've every stream we've done is averaged over the 75 that needed to be partner. It was just a matter of how often we were streaming. We're supposed to be doing it 3 times a week, and we just did it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the previous Monday. So we at least 5 this week. So hoping we get partnership. If that happens, there'll be a whole bunch of other fun stuff. It might mean a change for you guys on YouTube, but we'll let you know before any of that stuff happens.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been insane.
Yeah. You need to do is
I'm exhausted.
Look at that number way up there. That's how insane this month has been. It's been an incredible amount of fun with all the mustache hijinks, but also I think we've put out a lot of fun content too that hopefully you guys are enjoying in terms of, the guests that we're getting, whether it was Mike Rothstein's farewell or a bunch of our draft guys that came in and out during the week. It's been amazing.
And if I can be emotional one more time, because I didn't get to say this for a full POD cast yet, but everyone who's reached out to me about some of the things I've talked about the past week or so has been it's been really emotional. I'll just say that. It's been really cool. Thanks, guys. I think maybe I might try to keep writing on it just to keep myself sane on just kind of working through it. But I don't know. Again, draft night felt like a bit of a relief, and then it just felt fun after that. I wanted to just enjoy football without worrying about my own pain. So, but you guys have been awesome. Just every day I see something from someone, and it really does make a difference to me. So. Sorry, I keep making this about me, Jeremy.
No, you're fine. It's been, I can't imagine the week you've had. So the other thing I want to say really quick too is like our Discord community is only getting better and better as well. Like I could tell, like you guys, there were so many people that were just experiencing the draft through our Discord channel. Just every pick that was going by, there was chats happening. So if you haven't joined our Discord yet, !Discord. If you guys are hungry to talk Lions with people that you can't see, we're still in a pandemic. We're still not seeing face to face.
We had a voice chat going on. I saw at least 3 or 4 people just all chatting and watching the first round. And then, there's a ton of text channels. I need to apply for community on Discord to change our format, and that'll give us some better stuff for like news feeds. But it's the Discord's grown pretty well, and I see quite a few people who are regular names on there. So if you haven't joined them yet, Miss Ruby wants to be a guest. I think Miss Ruby doing a tailgate food show would be fantastic.
That actually kind of sounds amazing.
Yeah, we do. Miss Ruby, how do you feel about tailgate party POD cast?
Listen, I'm like 6 days or something away from apparently the vaccination reaching all of my blood. I don't know how vaccines work.
I get my second shot I think in like 2 weeks.
I'll come right down there to Indiana and we'll do a tailgating stream sometime.
Absolutely.
For I don't know if the Lions ever play the Colts in Indianapolis, but we'll do it. But
it's gotta come up at some point. But just to have her on, just to talk about like just some ideas for food.
Right.
Because I again, college, I grew up liking college football more than NFL to start. I made that transition to the NFL, but man, one of the things you take away from college is just all that good tailgate food. Lions have some decent tailgates, but I think we can step up the game. And I think we need some pointers from a professional like Miss Ruby.
Yeah, and I want to pull up how much skills she brings to the table. So I'm scrolling through her Instagram to try to find her Super Bowl thing. What's it called again? I forgot what it's called. Oh, I think I went too far. That is 40. Oh, that's way too far. The Snackadium. That's what it's called. The Snackadium. Oh yeah, she does Detroit pizza. I forgot she loves Detroit pizza.
My friend John, who is a foodie, has started making Detroit pizza. The idea of doing tailgate Detroit pizza sounds amazing. Snackadium is what she says.
Where is your Snackadium? I can't find it. 13 weeks. Oh, maybe I bet I could just search Twitter, and you're probably the only person who ever wrote the word Snackadium. So I'm going to do that really quick.
Oh, she's got Twitter.